Follow me home when you see Galilee, then you'll know you're home.
Now, when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, The land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles, the people which sat in darkness saw a great light. And to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers.
בואו אחריי, ואני אעשה אתכם לדייגי אדם.
And they straightway left their nets and followed him. We're on the northeastern shore of the Sea of Galilee this morning, and it's a beautiful morning. This is a beach similar to that used by the disciples, where there's a good boat launching from here and a very good fishing area in the north end of the lake. Luke tells the story of when the Lord came by to see the fishermen, and I'll read from Luke 5. And it came to pass that as the people pressed upon him to hear the word of God, he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and that's another name from the root Kinor for harp. The lake is shaped like a harp, Kinneret, Gennesaret. And he saw two ships standing by the lake, but the fishermen were gone out of them and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and he prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people out of the ship. And it must have been an interesting gathering, fishermen and folks who happened by, and the Lord taught them from the ship. And when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, Launch out into the deep, and let down your nets for a draught. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we've toiled all the night and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net. The message here seems to be about obedience. Peter doesn't question the Lord's word at this point, although it was hard to obey him. There were skilled fishermen standing on the shore, and what the Lord said really was contrary to good fishing practice. To go out into deep water during the daytime would not ordinarily be good fishing on this lake. And Peter answered, stressing that they had no fish the night before, hinting to the Lord, you know, I don't want you to be made a fool of in front of these men. We had no fish last night. It's just not a good fishing season, and maybe we shouldn't try this. It's sort of implicit in what he says, but he did obey. And we must obey too, despite friends and our own knowledge and the circumstances we might find ourselves in and fears. We can take this word as worth obeying exactly as written. Peter got good results if we read on in 6 and 7. And when they had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake. And they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. And they came, and they filled both the ships. So it was a tremendous catch. So Peter not only caught some fish, but he also caught some men. When he called the other fishermen to come and assist him, it sort of is symbolic of multiplying the ministry, expansion. Now when we read on, Simon Peter, when he saw it, fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he was astonished, and all that were with him, at the draught of the fishes which they had taken. He's completely respectful of the Lord, profoundly respectful, and he's convicted. Why does he now see himself as a sinful man? Well, because he perceives what is surely a work of God. This big catch at this unexpected time, he knows is God's work. When we go on, Jesus said unto Simon, Fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men. And when they had brought the ships to land, they forsook all and followed him. Peter now feels serene. The Lord said, fear not. The hymn says, of whom shall we be afraid? The word catch is interesting. When he says, from now on you'll catch men, it's the Greek zogreo with the root zoa, life. You'll catch men alive. You'll enlist them, capture them, put them to work. The devil's snare in 2 Timothy 2:26, telling us to beware the devil's snare. That word too, snare, is zogreo, a way of catching alive. Both God and the devil catch men alive and start them working, each for their own cause. When you catch a fish, it kills them. Catching a man in the sense of zogreo is gathering his labors for your fields, enlisting him. So the believer forsakes and follows him, as Peter and the others did. They left their boats and their nets, their homes, their families, all the things they loved, but they did get a good reward. They walked with him, the Son of God, and heard every word he said for 3 years, and they did catch men. Well, here's one of those times when the Lord helps us out with our location. Since I left off talking, we decided to change the camera angle. That doesn't take that long. And suddenly the wind blew up and a storm formed. Not a real dark storm, but this just shows how suddenly this sea can turn against you. And we're just about to teach about 2 storms that came up on the water. First of all, Mark relates in his 4th chapter. I read from Mark 4:35. And the same day, when the evening was come, he saith unto them, let's pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him, even as he was in the ship. And there were with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind, and he said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? They were pretty impressed. We should know that storms are average for believers. We're not promised comfort and rest when we take up this cross. Difficulties are normal. Paul said we are counted as sheep for the slaughter. And Jesus said in the upper room, ye shall have tribulation. During storms, we should turn to him. That's exactly what the disciples did. Jesus was tired, asleep in the boat. He is like us. He was born of a woman like we are. He is tempted in all things just as we are. We do not have a high priest with our weaknesses that he doesn't know them and sympathize. Hebrews 4:15. Here he was, wonderful faith, sleeping through the storm. Now, when they crossed the sea, they fought with the storm. They were skillful seamen. This happened a lot, but this time they really were failing. They really had to work at it. And they asked if he cared. Do you care that we're perishing? As if it never occurred to God that people get in trouble in the sea. Actually, their question was already answered if they had read the Old Testament in the 107th Psalm. God covers this case very exactly. I'm reading from Psalm 107:23. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commandeth and raiseth the stormy wind, which lifteth up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven. They go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of their trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man and are at their wits' end. They that cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. then are they glad, because they be quiet. So he bringeth them unto their desired haven. The whole story is, you might say, covered. Plenty of men go down to the sea in ships, and God knows they're there, and he watches them. Afterwards, Jesus asked them, where is your faith? They feared the storm. Now fear, properly, to the believer, is reverence of God and his works. They finally were going to come to this when they saw what he did. But fear, being afraid, cowardice, is not part of the believer's life. Fear is properly reverence of God. Samson was not afraid of the armed Philistines, 1,000-man regiment. David was not afraid of Goliath. Daniel went in the den with the lions and simply went into prayer, and they were pacified. Again, peace, be still. They finally said, when they saw what he did, what manner of man is this? The whole lesson can be summed up in those three simple words of his: peace, be still. Now, there's another story of a storm that happened after he fed the 5,000. And we covered that on another of the programs in this series, where he sent them away. They wanted to get away. It was a difficult scene. And when they were out at sea, a storm came up. They really needed the Lord at that time, and he wasn't with them. Let's look at Matthew 14, 22 to 33. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. That's the 5,000 he fed. The crowd was pressing on him, wanted to make him a king. And when he'd sent the multitude away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. He could see from the mountain they were in trouble. He came out and walked after them on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Same idea, peace, be still. But Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, come. And when Peter was come out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And he began to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Well, why did you doubt that you could do this? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. He sent them out to begin with to save them some trouble. The crowd was wanting to make him king. He would have made a wonderful Israeli Caesar. He could heal the sick, raise the dead, feed any number of people out of one basket. What a general he would make in their army. We said it before. He sent the disciples away because they would have gotten in the middle. He was protecting them. The crowd wanted him to be king, and he would have expected the disciples to keep the faith, not to believe in the faith of the crowd, who was really pretty much thrilled only by the miracles they saw and had not heard much doctrine. The disciples should know better. So rather than have them be caught between him and the crowd, he simply sent them away. He withdrew himself into the mountain, let the crowd disperse. The application here is clear. The Lord always offers a way of escape. Here at the Sea of Galilee, we often need a way of escape. We look to the Lord, he'll somehow make it. It may take time, but he'll make it. They fought that storm for hours. It says they debarked at sundown, and he came walking to them in the fourth watch. That's the last watch of the night. It's at dawn. It starts from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. And if they had started out at sundown, they had a task on their hands to try to maintain this boat. And again, Jesus was not there. Like now, he's not with us now, he's with our Father, but we have to call to him now, as the disciples called to him. He was training them, it looks like, for a time they would have to travel through the storms of life without him in their boat. The other time he was asleep in the stern, but this time he wasn't even there. But he came walking on the water. Now, Mark adds an interesting note. He would have passed them by. It says in Mark 6:48. That would have been disappointing. They see someone walking on the water, and there is salvation. They reach, but he passes them by. That would be awful. But really, it looks as though he wanted them to call for help. When they called, he stopped. And the application, the lesson is, he intercedes for us now, even with in his Father's throne room, but he does want our prayers. He does want us to call to him. He doesn't do it automatically. He wants to hear the call. They thought they saw a ghost out here on the sea. They were scared. Then when they realized it was him, of course, they weren't scared anymore. The lesson, to recognize him relieves fear. Peter's walk worked, but only according to his faith. When he started to doubt, he sank in the water. Jesus did not rebuke him, though, for the attempt, only for doubting. He favors bold acts of faith, but they have to be acts supported by total faith, 100% faith. And finally, as the story ends, we see the disciples making no explanation of this. He was walking on rocks. You've heard it all. Some rationalization. He knew that the reeds were under the water so he could walk on them. Not at all. That wasn't what they said, and they saw him there. They said, truly, thou art the Son of God. That's the correct conclusion as to why he could do this thing. If you see a man walking on water, don't be afraid. It's probably going to be Messiah.
Just call me, Lord, I'll come to you, walking on the sea. I'll show them I believe in you, and you believe in me. Just summon me, and I will come. Just place your faith in me. For I would not deny you, Lord. Tell me, walk upon the sea.
Well, there's one more miracle I'd like to talk about, and has to do with the fish in the lake. This is a St. Peter fish, landlocked here. Probably what the Lord and the disciples ate, a very delicious fish. People love it when they come to Galilee. And we had a scene in Matthew 17 that I'd like to share with you. Verse 24. When they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, doth not your master pay tribute? And these were temple tax collectors. Peter saith, yes. And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, which is to say, he spoke first, saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children, or of strangers? Peter saith unto him, of strangers. Jesus saith unto him, then are the children free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea, and cast an hook, and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. That take and give unto them, for me and thee. Jesus paid his secular taxes on the occasion when he said the famous, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God. But this tax is for the temple tribute. Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem for tabernacles, and Peter was approached for 2 drachmas, which is equal to a half shekel. This comes from Exodus 30, 11 to 16, the temple ransom for one's soul. The people paid half shekel per year. Everyone had to pay. The poor could not pay less, nor the rich pay more, but it really wasn't much money. A half shekel was only 32.5 cents. And the silver was used in the tabernacle to make the hooks and the sockets for the hangings, and then the congregation could see their tax money at work, you might say, keeping their redemption paid up. This is one of the things that has not increased in price over the time. In fact, in the New Testament, salvation's not even 32.5 cents a year. It's free. Now, later Rome was to collect this temple tax to build the temple of Jupiter. That must have aggravated the people in 135 AD. In any case, the tax was due each year on Passover, with an extension you could get, like we do with income tax, until Pentecost in May, or until Tabernacles in October, which certainly was the last extension. Now, Jesus had not paid that year, and when Peter walked in, Jesus well knew where he'd been. And this dialogue he has, do kings collect taxes from strangers or from their own children? Naturally from strangers. If the king is going to build the palace or refurbish the palace, he doesn't tax his own family, but the people. And Jesus might have gone on to clarify, well, I don't have to pay this tax. It's used to deal with my Father's house and build it and refurbish it. I'm the son of the family. I don't have to pay tax to my Father. Or even more intensively, I and my Father are one, he said. He would be paying tax to himself to build his house. Then he said, nevertheless, so we don't offend them, we'll go ahead and pay. He was a good witness. And it's significant that the Lord, walking through this land, did not have 32.5 cents in his pocket to pay the tax. He didn't even have a half shekel, but he sent Peter to get the fish, and in there he found exact change. It's an interesting point. He didn't find a drachma, nor a denarius, nor a mite, nor a farthing, but exactly one stater, a Roman coin, equal to 4 drachmas, which is equal to 2 times the half shekel. In other words, exact change for the temple tax, for them both, for their redemption. It was a very Jewish lesson for a Jewish audience. And, you know, to prove this, I looked in the Jewish writings with the help of my assistant, Reverend Jeff Seif, and we found stories of treasures found in fish. This was a common theme. You might say, like nursery rhymes have princesses and princes and castles as themes. This idea, fish was a delicacy in ancient Israel, often used for the Sabbath. And there's a story, for instance, in the tractate, the Talmudic tractate Shabbat 119a. The story goes this way. Joseph, the honorer of the Sabbath, not the Bible Joseph, but another one who was well known for how well he honored the Sabbath, had a wealthy heathen neighbor. The Chaldeans had prophesied that all that neighbor's wealth would someday go to Joseph. Now, to try to subvert this prophecy, the neighbor converted all of his property and all of his money to one precious gem, had it sewn into his headgear, and took ship, went out to sea, so it couldn't be found, to get away from his neighbor. And what happened? But the wind blew like it does here. It blew the headgear into the sea. Sometime later, Joseph, the honorer of the Sabbath, went to buy a fish, paid a great deal of money for a fine fish for the Sabbath. When he cut it open, he found the precious gem inside. The headgear had left it in the water, and the fish picked it up, and so Joseph ended up with all the property of his neighbor. Not only that, God honored him too. The moral of the story is, he that sacrifices for the Sabbath will repay him. And then from the Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah, in other words, rabbinical teachings on the book of Genesis, which in Hebrew is called Bereshit. The commentary is on Genesis 2:3, and God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. The story goes this way. In Rome, in the Christian world, a poor tailor had to bid against the servant of a prince for a fish. In other words, the poor tailor needed it for his Sabbath table, but a prince needed it too. He ended up paying a princely sum. The prince called him in saying, how could you afford it? And he said, my lord, there's a day in which all our sins are remitted us, and should we not honor it? And the prince was impressed, and furthermore, the Jew was able to live ever afterwards on the proceeds of that one gem. So those are stories, too, of miracles found in fish. I'm glad that we could tell you this one and all of the other miracles that happened here on this beautiful Sea of Galilee. Let me refer to a map and show you about where we are. We started the series in Samaria here by the well, the Lord and the woman. Jerusalem would be south of here. We went to the Jordan River in the second program for our baptism show, and now we're at the Sea of Galilee, and we'll be there several shows. Then up to Caesarea Philippi and Mount Hermon for the Transfiguration, back to Bat Shean for the Great Commission. At Bat Shan is a Roman stadium that expresses the uttermost parts of the earth. And from that moment, when the Lord said to Peter, Achariv ani aseyatchem l'dayegei adam, I'll make you fishers of men, then that's what we've been doing, and in all nations. Our actors, as you saw them in the dramatics, are speaking in Hebrew, so you could hear the way it sounded, and there are titles there so you can understand what they were saying. You know, we thought about having them speak English. Israelis speak perfectly good English, but why not hear the thing the way they actually said it? It adds to the ambience of the scene, and the translations are there for you. I wanted to mention, of course, you can come on our tours and hear them speak Hebrew and English and see all these sites for yourself. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I'm sure you know this ministry takes tours in every season of the year. Just write to us. We'll send you the upcoming brochures. Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.